What describes you as a musician?
Yeah, I would think that I'm an explorer, an adventurer who likes to dabble into different styles. I'm always, on an adventure to seek different types of music, different styles, experiment and stuff. So I think that's it. And I'm an explorer.
An advice to the young musicians?
Oh, I'm not really good at the advice, but if you really want my advice, I think I would say a couple of things. One is don't be afraid to explore. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. But always stay rooted and grounded in what you believe in the sense that you may go out and have an adventure and explore different styles, genres, but there'll always be something very close to your heart in terms of a genre, a style, a mood, a vibe. And you'll realize that when it comes to you writing your own music, you'll always circle back to that spot in your soul.
Hey guys, welcome to Art and Culture Tribe. Hope you're doing well. Today we have with us an amazing keyboard player who's known for his jazz, blues, rock and roll style of playing. He plays with numerous artists. He's also a music teacher. Do you want to know who it is? Let's check it out. So let's welcome Joshua Costa. Hi Joshua, how are you?
Good, Dinkar. Thank you for having me, and the folks at Art and Culture Tribe. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for, accepting our invitation and coming here.
I hope I can do justice to your
Of
podcast.
course you will. You just have to speak what you feel as a musician. That's what we're going to discuss. And if there's anything that you want to say to the audience, you're most welcome.
All right.
Okay. So let's just start. So who is Joshua Costa as a musician? What describes you as a musician?
Yeah, I would think that I'm an explorer, an adventurer who likes to dabble into different styles. I like to cultivate and learn as I listen to more and more music. I play with more folks. I learn through people I play with, through what I listen. So I'm always, on an adventure to seek different types of music, different styles, experiment and stuff. So I think that's it. And I'm an explorer as a musician. And I always believe in, obviously, keeping it creative.
Okay. How was your initial days with music? I've read about you and it says that I think 8 years old, that is when you started playing the keyboards.
Yeah. 8 years is actually old. I teach students today from the age of 5. So I think 8 is old. But yeah, at the age of 8, I think at that point, my parents put me in a village tutor to learn keyboard.
Okay.
And I had a small little keyboard at home, and I would go for classes. But as usual, I wouldn't practice. And I think they used to tell me, sit down for 10 minutes every day, please. Otherwise, we'll take you off classes and whatever. But I think at some point I latched onto it.
Okay.
And I started more than what the teacher was teaching me. I used to like to experiment. So that experimenting thing was always there in me.
Okay.
And I would try to listen to stuff which I would hear on the radio. At that time, we had cassettes and maybe CDs came in a little later. But anyway, and I used to try to emulate that, replicate that. So I think I learned a lot of music through listening. Of course, in addition to the theory and stuff that I was learning. So background-wise, I've learned Western classical and pop keyboard. But in terms of, where I am today, I think it's a lot of organic listening and a lot of playing with folks and self-learning also that has helped me along the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your favorite genres?
If you ask me a favorite genre of music, I would say closest to my soul is jazz and blues. No doubt about that.
Okay.
But again, coming back to the point that I play other styles as well. And over time, while I, around the age of 15 or 16, I caught on to that jazz bug. And I would listen to a lot of jazz music, jazz records and blues and whatever. But eventually over time, I also realized how jazz was being fused into other styles. And, I discovered jazz rock bands, jazz fusion and blues rock. So eventually all those also came into my ambit of what are called as, my favorite genres of music. So today I have quite a few, favorite genres. I wouldn't limit it to one or two. Yeah.
Okay. I had a question which I think we spoke earlier. How would you differentiate between a jazz and a blues kind of music?
Jazz and blues differentiate. Well, if you ask me how they're related, I think I would have a better answer for you.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, in the sense that they're both derivative of each other. I think blues and jazz are pretty much derived off of the same, same set of scales and the same set of the vibe generally and what have you. But I think the history of blues dates back to a little different from the history of jazz. I've read and I've been told that blues also originated a lot in Black America when you had the slavery and the oppression, and then people would essentially vent out that emotion by using a lot of the black keys on the piano, and that's what led to the evolution of the blues scales, and that's how blues was born. And if you listen to the blues, that's why you call it the blues, right? You essentially is a way of venting out your sadness or whatever was going on at that time, that feeling of oppression. So that's how blues was born. Jazz, on the other hand, also has a variety of emotions. It can be from something more sad. It can have a much happy. It can have an excited emotion. So, I think difference-wise, I would say it's more of the history. But and in terms of technically how you count it, how it sounds, also is different. But I think they're more related than they're different, if you ask me.
Okay. And your favorite bands when you were growing up that made you like practice more and more?
That maybe practice more and more.
Yeah.
I won't say it was any Western classical music and stuff, because that I used to do because I had to learn it from my teacher. I used to, you finish this piece, this week, and next week we'll review it and whatever. I owe a lot to them because I think in terms of technique and theory and whatever, you learn a lot of it from Western classical. But I think it was the records that played in my house. So, both my parents aren't musicians per se, but they loved music, and they would play records of bands like retro bands like, say, Queen or Beatles. And I think that got onto me, and that's basically where, for me, it all started. I was very mesmerized by how they would take the same piano and use it in different styles, like rock and pop. And I think that's what got to me first. So those were my favorite bands growing up. I would listen to a lot of Queen. I would listen to Beatles. I would listen to Eric Clapton. But eventually, when I caught the jazz bug, my focus of listening shifted, and I was listening to more of Chick Corea and Herbie Hancock and the stalwarts, if you may, and Keith Jarrett. I used to love Keith Jarrett. Listen to a lot of Keith Jarrett, and eventually it evolved also into jazz rock bands like Chick Corea's Electric Band was one of my favorites again.
Okay.
Cassiope. I don't know if you've heard of Cassiope.
I have not.
Japanese
but now
jazz
since you
fusion band.
mentioned so many, right? I have to go and check it out.
Cassiope and all that. So, and I think more recently, having played with more rock bands and stuff, now, when I say now, it's not like yesterday, but in the last maybe 7 to 10 years, I've been listening to a lot of classic rock bands as well. Since I've forayed into playing more of rock as well. Yeah.
Yes. You performed a lot outside as well as a keyboardist.
Yeah.
Can you share some experience of the places and how different it is from performing here and there?
Well, you have, I think in both places you have very enthusiastic audiences that come and listen, to the music. My performance when I've performed outside of India has been a lot of indie music with the band Perfect Strangers. So we've done a Southeast Asia tour, and we've done a few other countries as well, and we've performed there. I think there's a very good audience, very keen audience that listens to indie music there as well. Not that they don't have an audience listening to cover bands, they do, but a very keen audience that listens, understands, and appreciates indie music as well. I find that here as well. Not that you don't find it here, but I think it's there in both places. So yeah.
Okay. Since you brought up Perfect Strangers, let's talk about how you joined the band Perfect Strangers, and I think you were part of their first album as well. The Strange Connection.
Yeah, the Strange Connection album.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us how you met the band and how it went.
The album was it was fun recording that album. It was great. I think we all had a blast recording. It was our first album together.
Yeah.
So lots of difference of thoughts and opinions. But eventually we came to common ground on what we needed to do, and it was a great experience because I think it was the first indie album I recorded myself. I was part of at that point of time. It was maybe 6-7 years back, I
Yes.
think. Yeah. So it was a great experience. Writing out parts. At that point of time, I would always focus on what I had to play as a pianist, my parts and whatever. But when you're producing an album together with others, you often have to think about others' parts as well. How would that sound in the context of what you're playing, and look at it in the whole wider context. So I think that was a very novel experience. Eventually, we got all the material down, we recorded it. The recording was done in Bangalore itself. We got a 8-track EP, I think, 8-track album out at that point, and yeah, it was fun. And if
Yes.
you listen to the songs also, it's very varied. You have a rock ballad and you have a funk song in the
Yes.
middle. So a lot of different stuff going on there. So again, it brought that virtuoso variety out. Yeah, it's fun.
And I think even the recent single, The City of Heartache, right?
Yeah.
I heard that. I love that. I love that track as well.
Thanks. That has a very classic retro pop
Yeah.
vibe to it.
Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know, a Steely Dan with something else.
Yeah, and I'm
proto.
glad that a band like this is actually tapping on with the old vibes and kind of making it sound in a new way.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. No, we are, as a band, very influenced by the sounds of Steely Dan and Toto and how they fuse rock with elements of jazz and elements of funk and blues. And they don't necessarily, they keep it so interesting, right? Because every song has its unique identity. Every song has got its own story to tell. And that's how we believe in writing music in Perfect Strangers.
So, is the writing process like, somebody comes up with a tune and like, hey, I have a tune, let's try to, is it the same, or is it that you decide to jam on a day?
Yeah, so I think the guitar and founder, member of the band, guitarist Devjit, I think he basically pens down a lot of the melodies, and then everybody chimes in with their own bits, with the chords and the rhythm and whatever it is. That's typically the songwriting process, and our singers, with the lyrics, and they basically they fit it all into it. But sometimes it's also an accidental discovery, like the main riff of Shout, just to give you a small anecdote, was actually something that we were just, what is the word, screwing around during sound check, and I just played that riff, the main riff on Shout, and the piano riff where it starts, and someone caught on to say, that's a cool riff, man, let's keep that in mind. I said, I hope I remember it, but I did remember it, and then we came back to the pad the next time, we then built on it, and that became Shout. So it's different for every song, but the process where it starts with the melody, with Devjit penning down the melody, is typically how it has been for most of the songs, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And personally, you have released 2 albums. One is Always There and IKEA.
Yeah. So that was released way back. That's when I was still in Goa, even before I moved to Bangalore. So
Okay, what year was that?
It must have been in 2009.
Wow. Okay.
9 or 2010. Just before I moved to Bangalore.
Okay.
It was produced at that time by Colin DeCruz under the album Jazz Goa, under the label Jazz Goa. And I used to play with Colin DeCruz. I think we were doing 3 nights a week jazz in pubs in Goa. It was a very cool scene back then in Goa. You had these jazz pubs in corners and stuff. They would go till 1 o'clock. We would play jazz.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no sound limits and all this, stuff of today. And it was a very beautiful atmosphere. We had people in the audience who would come and just jam with us. People from outside of India, foreigners who would, who were visiting Goa and whatever. Anyway, so that was that. So he produced both the albums at that point of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joshua, you perform with different artists, and one of the artists that I want to mention is Gerard Machado, who's been in the scene for a long time and is been part of I think jazz signature that you can say.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about your experience playing with Gerard Machado?
Well, the first thing I'd start off by saying is I've been fortunate to play with a stalwart and veteran of the league of Gerard Machado. It was by accident that I think I started playing with him. Accident in the sense he was looking for a keyboard player at that point, and someone referred him and said there's this keyboard player who's just come from Goa. He's just moved to Bangalore. And at that point, I had just moved to the city, new place. Moving to a new place is always a very unsettling experience. And I wasn't gigging. I didn't know anybody. But I had heard of Gerard Machado when I was in Goa.
Okay.
And I even attended one of his concerts at that time. And I remember I was probably around 9 or 10 years old, probably 10ish or something. And I was looking at the stage and just mesmerized by the band. He'd come with his band Network. Never thinking that some years later I would have the opportunity to actually play with him. And I remember this first time I was so terrified of going for a jam to his place because I didn't know what I was going to play or whatever. But the warmth with which he welcomed me and the warmth with which he accommodated me, and the fact that I at that point didn't know a lot of tunes that he wanted to do, and he shared sheet music with me and said, don't worry, come back another day, practice these tunes and come, we can always I thought I busted my first chance when I went for that first jam with Gerard. But I'm so glad that that I'm playing with him, because for me, I think in jazz he's somewhat of a godfather to me. He's introduced me to so many different tunes and artists, some of which I'd never heard of earlier, and I began listening to their music. So, and of course, playing wise, I've learned so much from him. The art of accompanying another fellow artist, and the art of accompanying and playing left-hand bass. I think that's something I enjoy doing. Left-hand bass, because quite often we don't use a bass player per se, but I do my left-hand bass thingy, and I picked up a lot of that playing with Gerard in jazz and stuff. So I think at the end of the day, given the veteran musician that he is, he just overflows with a lot of warmth, a lot of friendliness, and he's just an amazing person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since you mentioned about teaching keyboards, how easy or difficult it is for you to make the students understand few things? How do you go about it?
That's a very good question, man, because it's tough to answer that question. It needs a lot of patience at times, and something which I never thought I would have had. The school was born during the pandemic. So what happened is, when everything shut down, as a band, we said, let's divest our energy into doing something else. And all of a sudden, this idea came, let's teach music. And the plan was never to grow to a 200 or 250 odd strong students school.
Wow.
The idea was to always just take a few students each, like, guitar, Devjit would teach 5, I'll teach 5 keyboard students. That was the plan. But I think people liked what we did and whatever, and referral, word of mouth, a very powerful way of spreading word, and one thing led to another, and before we knew it, we had quite a few students in the school. Now, coming to a question of how it is to teach them, it takes a lot of patience. There'll be students of different shapes and forms, in the sense that some of them understand rhythm, some of them don't understand rhythm, which is the pulse of music. Now, how do you teach rhythm, right? You have to come up with innovative ideas sometimes to teach rhythm. Rhythm, as they say, you're either born with it, or you may not be born with it, or you may be born with less rhythm. But to teach somebody rhythm sometimes can be something little difficult, right? And especially if you don't get it. So it needs a lot of patience. You have to be at it. But I can tell you this, there are lots of super talented students out there. The example I shared of someone not understanding rhythm or whatever is a handful. There are some very talented kids out there that I teach, and I learn from them as I teach them, because when I have to teach them, I need to study stuff as well. I need to pick up stuff as well. So right from new songs to concepts to sometimes they'll throw a wacky question at you, right? So you need to, get that in. So there are all types of students. It takes a lot of patience to teach them, and again, commitment to get them to that level and what have you. So you need to also keep it very flexible. That's my belief in when you teach. I personally, as a teacher, don't want to keep it very rigid and say, okay, you got to do this or you got to do that. I keep it very flexible. I ask the students, what do you want to learn today? I bring something to the table. You bring something to the table. Let's do this. That's my way of doing it.
Okay. Do parents get involved in during the teaching? I mean, of course they look forward to see the progress, but I was discussing this with Melvin as well.
Okay.
How do you tackle that situation when because you have to give them the right answers and things like that?
sometimes parents get more involved than required. Like in the sense they're super hands-on, right? They sit in sometimes in the classes. They are always around to see what's happening. They want to catch up. But yeah, I think today's parents are very hands-on. They want to get involved in their kids' progress, be it in music or be it in anything. I'm a parent myself, so I know what it is to be there. And yeah, I think parents are involved. They definitely want to be a part of the equation, and they want to get feedback regularly. So as a teacher, you need to give that feedback at least once a month or once every 2 months. Catch up with the parent and say, hey, this is what's happening. Good, bad, or ugly. Give the feedback.
Okay. Since you mentioned that you're also a parent, how old are your kids?
My kids, okay, so one guy is turning 8 in the next month, December. The other guy is all of 9 months.
Okay, wow.
Yet to hit his first year mark.
Okay. So then I can imagine, since it's a 9-month-old baby, right? And you running around doing so many things and plus attention to the kids.
Yeah, it's a tough gig. I'll tell you, that's the toughest gig. There's no jams or rehearsals. Nothing can help you with that one, man. Handling the 9-month-old is a different gig. Yeah.
Is your elder son into music or?
Well, he at this point he's showing some signs towards singing. I put him for classes with our own school actually, and he's very fond of listening to rock music. At this point, I'm not forcing him to listening to anything else. I just want him to listen to what he likes to listen. When he listens to sometimes some of this EDM stuff, I don't like it. I mean, like, okay, what's that? But I still let him listen to it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I let him listen to whatever he wants. So at this point, he's there, listening. Lots.
I have a son who's 2 years old.
Okay.
He likes music. He listens to songs and things like
Great.
that. I do play him a lot of indie music as well. Then sometimes some cousin will play some music, and I'm like, okay, that is something that, okay, but I cannot control that.
Right. But at 2, he's listening. I think that's fantastic, man. If at 2 years he's already listening to music and he's, that's great.
He has his favorite songs. He'll tell me, can you play this? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, if somebody plays something that probably I'm like, okay, but yeah, I have to just let that go and like let that, I don't want to control him.
Correct. No, and today's kids are wired a little differently. I've realized that, like in my day, I'm not that old, but I am a little old. It was quite different. Like people would, they would, essentially force fit you into doing something or what the society needs, and be it engineering or this or that. But today, I think kids are doing a wide variety of things, and parents are getting more and more open to the idea of what are called as lattice careers, right? Where people horizontally or vertically, they do this, grow their skill set horizontally or vertically, right? So it's very free form today, nowadays. Gone are those days when it was force fitted. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I think we, being the kids from the 90s, I don't know, I think, let me just tell you about my experience. I think I would listen to songs and, I think there was excitement to listen to songs.
Absolutely.
And now, when you're teaching and things like that, do you find kids listen to less music? Or when you tell them that this is something that you can listen to for your homework, how do they respond to things like that?
No, they do listen. The format has changed. Today's listening is Spotify, and you don't have to go and buy a record or buy a CD anymore, right? You have the world at your fingertips with the YouTube and whatever. So I think access to music is way more than it was back then. So you tell them to listen to something, they're more than happy to go and give it a listen because they want to then try it out. But you'll be amazed that a lot of the time they tell me what they want to learn. It's not that I need to give them a song. It's very often the other way around. They say, hey, I want to learn this song. And sometimes it may be a bit far-fetched. So I say, hey, hang on. This song may be a bit far-fetched at this point of time. We'll come back to it later. But most of the time, I'm more than happy to help them with that particular song that they want to listen. Maybe give them an easier version to then try it out or whatever. So we work on it, So kids are very, very open to listen. They have access to phones. They have access to all sorts of devices. They have access to the internet. So they are really listening to a lot of music. I think they are listening. Definitely.
That's great. Because I think what we're trying to do here is also, bring about a familiarity with the kind of music indie artists produce. and that's why we're trying to create more and more playlists and share it
Yeah.
across.
Yeah.
So that is our goal. Let's see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Anyways, coming back to you, what is your typical keyboard setup like on a show?
I usually like to go two-tier.
Okay.
So I usually have a piano at the base bottom, and I usually have a synth on the top. So my rig for the longest time was I would use a Chrome coupled with the Juno. Juno GI has been my faithful workhorse for the past 7-8 years, and trust me, as vintage as it is, some of those sounds on the GI, I you don't get them elsewhere, man. Trust me, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't been able to replicate some of those tones. So I still love the GI, which is what I use. Big Roland head there for all these synth sounds and the synth brasses and stuff, which is used a lot. And then for the pianos, I recently picked up a Nord Electro, which I'm in love with. I've been wanting a Nord for some time, was pushing it back, and I said, I'm doing this. So a couple of months back, I got the Nord Electro, and I've just been freaking out on it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I use that as well now.
Nice. And do you enjoy working in a studio or playing live, or both?
That's a very good question. Both.
Both.
Definitely both. Each one has its own thing, right? The live experience is surreal, man. It's something else, But when you're in a studio, you're also kind of ideating and you're bouncing each other's ideas. It's a very discussion-oriented environment. You're doing stuff there. Sometimes things cook up in the studio. You never planned to write something that way, but in the studio when everyone's there, you're discussing. So it's a different environment. It can be nerve-wracking at times, especially once you spend 4, 5 hours, 6 hours in the studio, you're doing the same stuff over and over again. But yeah, it's a different experience. And at the end, when you have the output, I think you feel great about it. When you have that song, you listen to it back and you're like, wow, this is how it sounds, and you're happy.
Okay. Have you worked on any film scores?
I haven't worked on film scores.
Okay. Are you looking forward to something like that?
Not really. I haven't really thought about working in film scores. I think my hands are pretty full at the moment. Hands, legs, everything. So I don't think I have the time to do film scores at this point of time. So yeah, not planning for it.
Cool. When you perform, when you compose your own stuff related to keys, when you reach a roadblock, what do? You are looking for a certain kind of a melody and it's not coming in. You're in a block. What do you usually do?
I take a break. Because I think that it's like a dead end, right? Once you hit a dead end, it's a wall in front of you. And if you keep accelerating, you're just going to hit the same wall. So you need to take a break and rejig your mind, recompose your mind, and reverse, and then take another path. So I don't know if that analogy helped, but I would say take a break, give it time, and you'll be past that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. You play the acoustic piano also, right?
I have when I was learning classical music and stuff. Today, unfortunately, as much as I love the sound and feel of an acoustic piano, as you know, on gigs and stuff, you cannot. Very seldom you can say, I want an acoustic piano on Tech Rider. You get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? But I do play the acoustic piano at a couple of venues that I perform at, and I love it. Yeah, because they have an in-house acoustic piano there. So I make the opportunity worth my while, and I just freak out on the acoustic piano.
How good do you think of course there are piano samples in the keys right now, keyboards, right? But I think you can never get the warmth that you look for when you actually play the acoustic piano. How do you say that?
Yeah, well, I think more than the sound, you can replicate tones, okay, through samples. And today's samples are so advanced, right? But I think the feel is what you cannot replicate, right? Because you actually hitting hammer and wood there, right? So it's a very different feel that you get when you play an acoustic piano. I'm talking about the actual playing experience,
correct,
right? As opposed to the sound. You can still like if I want a good Steinway sample or I want a good Yamaha sample, I can still get it. And if I tweak it a bit, I can make it closer and closer to the real deal. But the feel is different, man. That's something which is very different playing an acoustic and
Have you tried playing the organs, the actual organs?
No, and just 2 days back, somebody was asking me the same question.
Okay.
And I said no, but I really would love to play like a Hammond one day. I've never played a Hammond organ, so I would love to play a Hammond. Not very common around here, so. But I hope at some point I get a chance to play a Hammond.
Yes, I think
love it. Yeah,
I had watched Raveen Pandey,
Right.
him play the organ, and I was like so moved because, creating a sound
Yeah.
on a live setup with, the pulling those knobs and getting the right tones.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you performed or have you seen him perform anytime?
I think once I did see him perform.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a workout experience. It's not just playing. It's like your entire body is like at
Yes,
work
yes.
there, and then you have organ players who use the foot bass.
Yes.
That's a completely different thing altogether.
Yes,
have
I think church organ is
church organ
one
and
of
stuff.
them, right?
Absolutely, church organ and stuff. So yeah, it's. I
Yeah.
hope I get a chance to play an organ one fine day.
And we definitely want to see that as well.
yeah. So.
So what's next with you? Any shows coming up?
Yeah, things lining up as we close into the season. My next show is actually a very, very exciting set I'm looking forward to. It's a Latin jazz set I'm doing with two amazing, incredible musicians and also good friends. So Georaj on drums, Georaj George, and Naveen Napier from Chennai on bass, and we're doing a Latin jazz set in Chennai. And then after that, I've got a few more things lined up. But yeah, so every gig's different from the next.
How is this jazz scene in Chennai?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think there's a decent audience. I did a jazz show in Chennai, in fact, just 2 days back.
Okay.
I've just come back from there only. There is a reasonably good audience. Again, every city has its share of audience for jazz. It's not going to be as much as a pop audience you can't even expect that. It'll always be a smaller niche audience, but then you have an audience and they're faithful audience. They'll come for every jazz gig.
Yeah, true.
So yeah.
Do you think whenever there's a show in Bangalore and we speak to people, they complain about traffic, right?
Yeah.
So, as somebody who's done so many shows, what do you think the solution is, at least in Bangalore? Because I am trying to figure out how we can place gigs and not get an answer saying, "Macha, it's too far, macha," or "It's going to take too much time for me."
Oh man, I don't know. I think there's no solution. I really can't think of how you can solve this problem of the traffic, because there's no way to get to some other place without encountering this miserable situation of the traffic on the roads. You have to plan to leave 2 hours early, and that actually creates a lot of lethargy in people, a lot of feeling of irritation that I need to leave my house and go somewhere or whatever. But I think there is still a audience for live shows despite all this traffic stuff that happens, because people are very passionate about live music. There is a very good audience. Even if I look at Bangalore, whether you're playing an indie concert or a cover concert, there are people who still want to do that. They want to be there, even if they turn up late. They don't mind. They want to be a part of that action and excitement of this live gigs. So they beat it. Solution to the problem? I don't know. Maybe air taxis. They're talking about air taxis now from the airport, right? So maybe you have an air taxi from some house to the venue. The venue can arrange an air taxi to collect everybody and bring them there.
All right. Your favorite keyboard player that you look up to?
I wouldn't want to say one favorite. There are a bunch of piano players that I love listening to. Of course, the vintage stalwarts are there: Jake, Herbie Hancock, Keith Jarrett. That's what I started off listening to. But today I've evolved, and also in the sense of the different pianists I listen to. A lot of new age pianists also doing some incredible music, fusing different styles and different genres and different moods, like jazz with neo soul, with R&B and stuff. So I listen to a lot of new age artists as well, like Telemachus and Kiefer and Robert Glasper. These guys are always on my playlist. So, and of course everything in between as well. So lot of artists. There are too many to depend on, I would say.
So Joshua, we'll be asking you a bunch of questions. It's not exactly a rapid fire. You choose to answer it probably a one word or an explanation. Okay.
Okay.
So let's get on to that. Yeah, an artist you look forward to watch him or her perform live.
I would say I really want to. I've never had a chance to attend a Keith Jarrett concert. Keith Jarrett is one of my favorite pianists, so I really hope I get a chance at some point to attend a Keith Jarrett concert, Keith Jarrett show. Yeah.
Okay, cool. An artist you wish to perform with.
Perform with.
Yes.
It's a very big list. Uh, I know it's very far fetched, but I hope I ever get a chance to be the third keyboard player with Toto.
Okay.
If they ever need a third keyboard player, I'm there.
Nice.
Just kidding. Huh?
Nice. Your favorite bands. This can include, indie bands as well as any international band that you follow.
Sure, yeah. Again, it's a long list. I think Chick Corea Electric Band when it comes to jazz rock and stuff like that. In the classic rock area, I think definitely Toto. I love the way, I love their sound and how they fuse different styles. And like I said, every song is a story in itself. I love that. Steely Dan, definitely love Steely Dan as well. And the good old jazz vintage players like Thelonious Monk and I love listening to, in fact, it's not just pianists. I love listening to sax players as well, like definitely John Coltrane and stuff. But I also like listening to a lot of different guitar players like Frank Gambale and Birey Lagrene and stuff like that. So again, quite a big list, depending on my mood and the kind of music I'm feeling like listening to at that point.
Okay, cool. A show that changed your life, a performance that changed your life.
Performance that changed my life. Does it have to be a show that I was part of, or it could be a show I watched?
Anything.
Okay. Let me talk about a show I watched when I was probably very young, like around 13 or 14 years old. And it was a huge jazz concert that was organized at that point in Goa. And you had a lot of jazz artists from India, including some of the greats like Louis Banks and all of these guys who had come to perform. And I remember it was pouring. It was a monsoon season, and I don't know if it was monsoon season, but there was this sudden shower, and I was so mesmerized by everything that despite the rain, I got drenched. I didn't have an umbrella, nothing. I was just standing and just watching it. And that probably was one of the first times I realized that I want to be there. I want to be on that side of the stage one fine day. I was already learning the piano then, but I was not performing. But that's probably my moment of aha moment. I want to be there and be a part of what these guys do. Be on the stage and play music. Yeah.
Cool. If it was not keyboards that you play, what other instrument would you choose?
Bass. Definitely bass. Love the bass.
Okay.
Very integral part when I play. My ear's always on the bass. I mean, it's on everybody, don't get me wrong. But a big part of what I listen to is bass, and I'm always thinking, if I was a bass player, this is what I would play, or this. That. And I think that also contributes to the fact that why I enjoy playing left-hand bass is because I always had that inclination for bass. So definitely bass.
Okay.
Too late to learn now, but I still love listening.
Okay. An advice to the young musicians who are planning to build their career playing music.
Oh, I'm not really good at the advice. I think I need lots of advice. But if you really want my advice, I think I would say a couple of things. One is don't be afraid to explore. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. But always stay rooted and grounded in what you believe in the sense that you may go out and have an adventure and explore different styles, genres, but there'll always be something very close to your heart in terms of a genre, a style, a mood, a vibe. And you'll realize that when it comes to you writing your own music, you'll always circle back to that spot in your soul. So never lose touch of your soul in what you do. Explore everything, but don't lose touch of your soul. And the other thing I would say is I go back to the good old adage that says, like anything else, music is, I believe, 1% inspiration, but it's 99% hard work. You really need to work on your craft. There are a lot of talented folks out there, but you really need to put in a lot of time to cultivate that art, whether it's playing with other people, whether it's about listening, whether it's about improving yourself, challenging yourself to do better. It's all part of the improvement process. So I would say that's that 99%. So I would say that's my second piece of advice.
Okay. All right, Joshua, thank you so much for being in this podcast with us. We are so honored to have you here, first of all. And anything that you want to add, the last bits?
I first of all want to say thanks for having me over here. And I would also say thanks for doing this. I think it's a great initiative, what you guys are doing, because you're building a community of musicians, but you're also getting everyone's perspective, different musicians' perspective. You're not limiting it only to their music, but you're talking about as a person, what advice they have and whatever. So I think it's a nice initiative to hear from different musicians. And I wish you all the best in this initiative as you go about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that was the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Hit like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.